All right. Good morning, North Carolina. Good morning, South Carolina. Good morning, Georgia. Good morning, everybody watching in the United States. And I found out this week we have people watching in Canada, in Europe who have checked in. And so, good morning, world, and welcome to another day of our South Atlantic Conference Youth and Young Adult Discussion Forum on current events. We're happy to have you here today. We pray that it has been a good week. And it's Thursday, folks. It's Thursday. Friday is almost here. I'm kind of sad that our week is kind of wrapping up, but I thank you for joining us every day, particularly during these forum discussions. Our worship services are amazing, but our forum discussions have been very lively. We've kept it real. Yesterday, we were privileged to have Attorney Kelly with us and also Ryan Jones. And today, we are blessed to have with us someone who is not unfamiliar to the South Atlantic Conference young people. Today, we have with us Arthenius Jackson. Now, most of you all know her from singing, but she is not one dimensional. Arthenius does a lot of great things for the community. If you've come to camp meeting, she's done great seminars for us, and we thank her for being a part of our lives. Now, everybody who's here today, you know the routine. Do me a favor, share this on your page. Take a moment to share this on your page, share it on your Facebook page. Let somebody know that we are about to start our youth and young adult discussion. Incorrectly, Sister Howell, I said Vancouver. No, it's in British Columbia. I had a friend I went to school with named Natalie who was from Surrey Center. And I ignorantly on the line the other night said that you were in Vancouver. That is wrong. You're your own place and you're from British Columbia. And what a joy and honor it is to have our Canadian friends joining us on today. So share this on your page, spread it all around. But let's get to the business of talking about current events and things that are important to the Black community. I said earlier today that we have Arthenius Jackson here with us. Arthenius, I'm so pleased to have you here. I'm so happy to be talking to you. You've become my friend over these past few years. Arthenius, tell us a little about yourself, your history, where you're from, your family. Let people get to know Arthenius a little bit more.
All right. Well, thanks. First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this, this great ministry. And I've enjoyed it the past 3 years and just happy to be here again. But as he's already stated, my name is Arthenius Jackson. I'm from a small town called Hartsville in South Carolina, but now reside in Florence. I'm a graduate of Francis Marion University and Grand Canyon University, and I'm a worship leader at my home church, which my father is a pastor. So I come from a very Christian, strong in the faith background. Been in it all my life, don't know anything different, but I'm a worship leader. I am the founder and executive director of my nonprofit called One Touch Transformation, which focuses on sexual abuse, which is something very dear to me because I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. So I am a strong advocate for all victims and survivors. I am also a recent Zumba certified instructor, and start my virtual classes actually next week. So I'm so excited about that new adventure. And like I said, I'm a worship leader, songwriter, singer, and I'm also working on some new music, which will be released in the next couple of months.
Oh, okay.
Just thought I'd throw that in there.
I mean, so basically you do everything, right? You do everything. And listen, when you blow up, don't forget your boy, all right? Don't forget your boy who looked out from the beginning. I just want to be able to come backstage. So we're thankful. We're thankful for that. And thanks for telling everybody so much about yourself. Let's jump right into it. And we're going to change gears a little bit because we're going to talk about something that unfortunately is prevalent in the Black community, and that's sexual abuse.
Right.
It's also prevalent in the church, and a lot of people don't want to talk about that. You said earlier that you're an advocate for people who suffered that and a survivor. Tell us how you started your nonprofit and why it's so important to you.
Okay. So I started my nonprofit back in 2014, and this was a year prior to when I actually shared my story for the first time, which had been 20 years. And so I was sexually abused at the age of 6 up until my young teenage years by a family member, and we were all going to church. So, like you said, it happens in the church and it happens in our community, the Black community, but we don't talk about it. And so I was silent for 20 years. I shared my story with my family for the first time and just told them what happened, who it was, and just let it all out. After I shared my story with them, I went to counseling and I attended therapy sessions. So I did get help. Other than, going to Jesus, which is, it's fine to have therapy in Jesus. So I'm a strong believer in therapy. So I did go to therapy and counseling. And after I finished my sessions, I knew that there was something else that I needed to do. I knew that was not the end of my journey. So that's when I started One Touch Transformation, because I knew it was something that was needed, especially in our community and in the church, because I'm like, nobody is talking about this. And so if no one is talking about it, just imagine how many people are still suffering from it, especially in our church. And I cannot even remember anyone doing any lessons, any seminars, nothing about sexual abuse. So that's one reason why I never said anything. And so I said that I was not going to do that. I was not going to remain silent for the silent victims and those who were still suffering from the pain of the past. And so I said, I have to do something about it. So I started One Touch Transformation in 2014. And the mission of our organization is to educate the community about sexual abuse while empowering and educating others about sexual abuse, empowering them that they can overcome, and it's not the end, and healing is available, that there is hope. And that's why it's so important to me, because I know there are still so many people who are still suffering, and I want them to find the true freedom and the true healing and deliverance that God gave me, because it's not just for me, but it's for everyone who has been through these traumatic experiences.
Yeah, yeah. In our community, we've all grown up with whispers
Mhm.
and rumors and questions about paternity and things like that. Why do you think silence about sexual abuse is so prevalent in the Black community?
It's silent because, well, I'm gonna tie it in with the churches too, because believe it or not, and maybe you do believe it, there are a lot of people in leadership who are actually the perpetrators.
Wow.
And, and a lot of these people with these high positions, they feel like they can get away with it, or feel like just because they have these positions and they have this power, that they can silence their victims. And that's why it continues to thrive. And then you have these victims who are afraid to speak up because of who their perpetrator is. He's this leader, he's this person in high position. And so who am I to speak up? Who's going to say that they're going to believe me over this leader? And this has been going on for years. I mean, after I even shared my story, I began hearing older people talk about things that used to go
Oh
on in
yeah.
church. And I'm like, well, nobody said anything,
Nobody.
which I
Nobody.
get, because, if you're young and you're innocent and you have this person who's supposed to be watching over you or looking out for you, someone who you trust, and they take advantage of you, then yeah, you will be afraid to speak up. But it's just something that has been going on, and we just been remaining silent about it. But we can't remain silent because we have other children that are coming up, and they're not going to always speak up. So we have to be a voice for them and teach them and let them know, look, if someone touches you inappropriately, you can say something. You can speak up. It's not your fault. I don't care who it is. If it's someone in your family or if it's one of your leaders at church, speak
Mm,
up.
mm. Folks, welcome again to our daily youth and young adult discussion forum, where we talk about important topics in our community and current events. We're happy again to have Arthenius Jackson with us, who is also the CEO of One Touch Transformation. That's how you can follow her online, or you could just follow her personally at Arthenius J. She's talking to us about sexual abuse in our community, sexual abuse in our community. Can you talk about, Arthenius, what type of emotions young people feel when they are victims of
Mhm.
sexual abuse? it's not as cut as dry as that they just feel bad. Can you talk about the myriad of emotions a young
Mhm.
person would feel if they've been through sexual abuse?
Okay. So there are definitely some effects that come with being sexual abused, especially as a child. You have these emotions going through your head where you may not be able to explain what you're feeling because, as a child, your mind is still developing. A child's mind is like a sponge, so it's going to soak in everything that goes on, everything that is said to them. So as a child, when you are physically and sexually abused and it's coming from someone that you trust, there are times when you feel like it is okay because you feel like it's normal because this is happening to you. I'm the child and the perpetrator is an adult, and what they're doing to me, it must be okay. So you have some children or some young people that may accept what's happening and feel like it's normal, and so they begin to normalize everything that is happening. And then you have some who may shut down. You may have some that don't show any emotions. So it varies. No one person has the same effects. So you have some that become promiscuous because they enjoy the feeling because sex is a strong feeling, and it's a feeling, that feels good. And so, and I also want to say, do not feel bad if you do enjoy it, or if that feeling does, how can I say
Excites
it?
you.
Yeah, if it excites you and if your body, yeah, because your body's going to respond to that feeling. That's what sex does. So you have some who actually feel bad because they did respond, but it's okay. It's normal for your body to do that. But like I said, every person is different. So you'll have some who do show signs, some may not show signs. Like for me, I didn't show any signs. No one knew it was going on. So it's different for everyone. But
Wow.
the effects, they're very harmful, especially as you get older, because you try to suppress those feelings and you try to suppress those emotions, but then sooner or later they're going to come out in some kind of form, and then you're going to try to find ways to cope with how you're feeling and trying to figure out what's going on. So then you have some people who turn to alcohol, who turn to drugs, who turn to sex, selling their body. It's very harmful, the effects, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand how those effects really do carry on into a person's adulthood. So just because it happens to them as a child and you're like, oh, they're okay, they're getting over it, sooner or later it's going to show up down the line, and especially in adulthood. That's why I'm just so passionate about it, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to kids, because I know how I felt and how it affected me as I got older, and I do not want any child to go through that. Like, it's so important for that child to get help, especially as a child. Do not wait, but please, please seek help.
Yeah. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. We'll address those. We'll highlight those. You all are dealing with a passionate professional today,
Mhm.
someone who has changed the lives of a lot of young people and a survivor herself. And so
Yeah.
this is a great opportunity if you have questions to ask them to Arthenius so they can be addressed today. Arthenius, do you see the tide turning when it comes to sexual abuse, or are we in the same place we were years ago? I see the Me Too movement and things like that. Are we in the same place, or are we making any strides in this fight?
I feel like we are, and the Me Too movement has been I guess, a good movement that has allowed more people to say Me Too. I did see, I think it was on rain.org, where statistics, it did drop, a little bit from, I guess, the 90s versus right now. They have decreased some, but I do feel like it's because more people are speaking out, more prominent people at that. And this Me Too movement that has allowed so many, men and women to come forward and say, hey, it happened to me too. But do we have some ways to go? Of course, and especially in our community. And I would love to see, this is just me, I would love to see more Black men support survivors, because I feel like we could be so much further, especially in our community, if we had more of our men to speak up. And to, that would make such a huge difference, because men play such a vital role in family lives and
Right.
even in the church. And so if we can have more leaders and more, men to actually speak up, I feel like we can go even further.
Wow, wow, wow. Now, you brought up gender a few minutes ago. You brought up gender. And when it comes to gender, oftentimes when we talk about sexual abuse, we talk about girls and women. Tell me about boys and men. Are the number is it more? Does this happen to more girls than boys? Are the numbers increasing? Just in your expertise, why don't we hear a lot about boys and men?
A lot of men or guys don't come forward because of the stigma that comes with a guy saying that he's a survivor of sexual abuse. They feel like their manhood was taken away, or even they're gay, or they're a sissy or a punk, all these words. And so they fear that. They don't want to tell anybody that a woman sexually abused them, because that happens too. Most of the time we think it's a man and a little boy, but sometimes it's women and little boys.
Wow, wow.
And they don't want to, have that stigma on them or feel like, oh, you didn't like that. But no, I mean, it doesn't matter. If someone touched you inappropriately and touched you without your consent, that's still assault. That's sexual assault. I don't care who you are, man or woman. And so a lot of guys, they feel like, well, I'm not going to speak up because I'm afraid of how that's going to look or how it's going to make me look. But with the statistics, for girls, it's 1 in 4 girls, and for boys, it's 1 in 6. And you can't even really go by statistics because everyone doesn't speak up. But the ones that are reported, those numbers are 1 in 4 for girls and 1 in 6 for boys.
Wow, wow. Yeah, I remember when Terry Crews came out and said he was assaulted.
Yeah.
The brothers got on him hard. The brothers said,
Yes.
"Man, you got all these muscles, and why didn't you beat him up? Why'd you let that ride? You must be gay." So it must be hard for men
It
to
is.
speak out if they're sexually abused, particularly if they're adults.
Yeah.
All right,
Definitely.
we have a question for them from the audience. One of our first ladies here in South Atlantic Conference, Sister Cousins. And Sister Cousins, I want to let you know my heart goes out to you in your loss. We're praying for you in that. But she asked the question, what can church members do to help more children come forward if they are abused by the members of the church?
Good question. Good question. The church has to have the conversation. That's number one. You have to teach about consent and boundaries. And you can have this conversation without even just talking about sex, because I know a lot of time churches don't like to have the conversation about sex. But number one, it's important to talk to children about what consent is, what boundaries are, and introduce like what good touch and bad touch is. And if a child is touched, or given a good touch or a bad touch, then who they need to talk to, you need to make that known. Like, this is who you come to if someone touches you inappropriately. If they can't go to their parents, or if they can't go to someone at their church, I know they're not in school right now, but we will tell them to go to their guidance counselor, but someone who they trust. But if you're talking to these children at church, you need to go over what consent is, what boundaries are, and who they need to tell if someone touches them inappropriately. You just never know what's going on in a child's home, and you never know who might be, bothering a child at church. But having that conversation, that's going to spark something in their mind. Is like, okay, look, somebody did that to me. I need to
Right,
tell someone.
right, right. Can we go ahead and get something out of the way right now? And it's something Black people are reluctant to say. It's against the law
Yeah, it's a
to
crime.
to have sexual interactions with a minor. It's not a
Mhm.
mistake. It's not a I had a lapse in judgment. It's
No.
not she or he dressed provocatively. It's not they looked grown. It's a crime.
Yes.
It's a crime. It's even a crime to send nude images to a minor or to request nude images from a
Mhm.
minor. We cannot keep acting like this stuff is against the law. Arthenius, why do you think people are reluctant to get the authorities involved when it comes to this?
Man, they're afraid of how it's going to make them look, the family or the church.
Yeah.
I mean, but you can't be worried about that. We're talking about people's soul, talking
Right.
about their mental state.
Yeah.
their emotional state, their spiritual life. Just imagine how much damage is being done on a person, especially a child, whether it's a child or any member, because it affects the child and it affects the adult. You just don't do it. Like I said, it's wrong. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And and I have seen and heard of leaders taking advantage of their members. I mean, not children, but even women.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's still wrong. I don't
Yeah.
like I said, I don't care what she was wearing, what she said, but if you touch her inappropriately, or if you even if you say something to her inappropriately,
Inappropriate. Yeah. Without consent.
yes, it's wrong and it's a crime.
Yeah.
But you have to keep all these things in mind, and even when it comes to our children, do not be afraid to call the law. You
Yeah.
cannot be concerned about how it's going to make your church look. If anything, you're doing the right thing and you're setting an example to others. Like, this is what happens when someone takes advantage of a child. You involve the law because it's not right.
As a minister, the law is I have to be a mandatory reporter.
That's right.
You're familiar with my camp, Arthenius, and we
Mhm.
had a situation a few years ago where a counselor was soliciting a minor,
Mhm.
and I could not call a meeting with the church and their pastor. I couldn't have a parents' meeting. As soon as we found out, I had to report it
That's
to
right.
the authorities. You can't make these calls where you're trying to be the mediator in these situations. Let the cops figure it out, but it
Right.
has to be reported when it comes to the minors. And let me be perfectly clear. I'm gonna say this on the air.
Mhm.
You come for my daughters. No, I'm not calling the cops. Okay, I'm gonna be the cops. We go I'm gonna deal with it, and I hope that never happens. But
Right.
make sure you get the authorities involved. Arthenius, I've seen some of the work you do online at One Touch. It seems to be an affirming ministry. It seems to be something that lifts people up. Can you talk specifically about some of the things you do for the young people who step into your doors?
Yes, for one, we do have a mentoring program. Right now, it's only for girls, but we hope to start one up for the boys. But it's a mentoring program called the Butterfly Effect, and it's for ages 6 to 15. And so we mentor these young ladies, talking to them about what consent is, what boundaries are, talking about good touch and bad touch. We even talk about sexual abuse, what predators look like, who they can be, and just teaching them now, giving them this knowledge that they need, what I needed as a little girl. And with this, we're also able to incorporate about self-esteem, what it means to believe in yourself and how to love yourself, love who you are. Our motto is I am strong, I am powerful, I am beautiful, and I am perfect just the way I am. And so I have really enjoyed doing this program with these girls. It's been 4 years since we've been doing this with the girls, and the program has really grown. We actually have it in 3 locations in our PD area. So it's been amazing just seeing how we've been able to make an impact on these young ladies. And prayerfully, I would love to start one with boys. And I hate to say this, but it's harder to find men that would volunteer versus the
Yeah,
women.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Which is why we need more men to step up,
yeah, yeah.
uh, but I would love to see that go even further, especially with our boys, because I know our boys need it. We don't talk enough about empowering our young men, but they need it as well. And so
Okay.
it's been a great journey, and I'm loving every bit of it.
All right, men out there, here's her handle. And
Mhm.
don't do it just to try to holler at her, okay? All right. No, you want to volunteer. This is how you get in contact with Athenius to volunteer for helping mentor boys who may have suffered in sexual abuse. And as a church, I'm committed as a leader that we talk about this more. We
Talk
have
about
to talk about it because it's happening too much. One last question, and then we will move ahead. The question is, how do you address it when the abuser threatens to harm you or your family if you report them? Now that's what's been happening since time immemorial, where the abuser threatens
Mhm.
physical harm to you or the family. I tell my daughters, if somebody's threatening you, your daddy's bigger than everybody. Don't worry about me. Just tell me. Tell me what's going on. But what do you say to a young person that's afraid to deal with it because the abuser is currently threatening them? I'm pretty sure you've dealt with this, Arthenius. What do you say to our Facebook viewer?
And that's one of the tactics that abusers do use. They say it. There's like, if you tell anyone or if you speak up, I'm gonna hurt you, or
Right.
hurt your another sibling. But you easier said than done, but you still have to say something. Go to someone that you trust. If you can't go to any other person in your family, go to the police or your local rape crisis center. Every area has a crisis center. And if you don't know where yours is, you can look it up at the website rainn.org. That's rain.org. And you type in your zip code and it'll bring up the closest rape crisis center in your area.
Say that
Also,
again, Arthenius.
rainn.org.
Okay.
And I'll also give out the National Sexual Assault Hotline, which is 1-800-656-4673. So that's 1-800-656-4673. So that's if you cannot get out of it, can't call anyone, nearby, you can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline. And if you Google it, you can also chat, even if you don't want to talk, if you don't feel comfortable talking over the phone, they have it accessible where you can just talk through chat online. Yeah, so that's the National Sexual Assault Hotline.
All right.
There are so many people.
Rain.org.
Number rain.org, great resource, and anybody can access that, and you can use all of the information on rain.org to even help out with your churches. They have stuff where you can print off information, post it up, because you never know who needs it in your community, and a lot of people just don't know about it.
Yeah. Donna says that parents and guardians also have to take that responsibility to talk with their children before the church.
That's true.
The church, however, is the only escape sometimes.
Yeah.
Kids fall victim to sexual abuse at church because they trust the church.
Mm-hmm.
They trust the pastor. They trust the youth leader. So we got to make sure our churches stay places of refuge instead of places of abuse. Also, if you're a young adult woman and you say no, that is enough. Make it clear to the individual. No is no. I'm not trying to tell you to go harder. I'm not trying to tell you to get more aggressive. No means no. And for young men as well, no means no. You do not have to be a victim of sexual abuse. Like, even when it comes to dating, for young adults, don't put yourselves too in precarious situations. All right. If you're not trying to have sex, Netflix and chill at 11:30 might not be the best idea. All right. Y'all may need to go out a date about 7:00 somewhere wide open and drive both of your cars. You know what I mean? You can't put yourself, no one is ever to blame for sexual abuse, but you can put precautions in place to make sure you don't find yourself in compromised situations. When you go out on a date, have a buddy you can call instantly, who's listening out for you, who you can push a button and send them a text and they know where to find you. Tell people where you're going.
Right.
Okay? Tell people where you're going. If you walk up to the car and there's 2 or 3 people in it, don't go. Protect yourself at all times. But even if you don't do any of those things, no is enough. Would you agree with that, Arthenius?
Yes, no is enough. Yeah. And even if I if I don't say no and I don't say yes, that still doesn't mean you go. It doesn't mean I go.
There you go.
If you're, and I'm going to use this example, if a guy is unsure what her answer is, then it's no.
Right.
If you have to guess, or like I said, if you're not sure, then just don't go for it. Don't. Just take it as a no. But
Right.
I wanted to go back to what Miss Donna said about talking to kids. And I always tell parents this, especially with young kids. The best time to have the consent and boundaries talk with kids is when they are able to talk. You can
That's
teach little
facts.
kids at 3 or 4 year olds what is a good touch and what is a bad touch. Talking to them about what a vagina is, what a penis is, who's allowed to touch them and who's not. You can have that conversation with them as early as 3 years old. They will understand it because you don't want to make it so complicated as when they get older, then they don't want to have the conversation. But be comfortable with it. Make it easy, and that way, whenever they get older, then it's nothing for them to talk about it. But yeah, have that conversation when they're able to have say their first words. Trust me.
Wow. Wow. We are keeping it real today. Let's go ahead and shift topics. That was a valuable discussion. Tell
Mhm.
somebody they missed it. Let them know we had a healthy discussion
Yes.
about sexual abuse. Sister Cousin says the earlier the better.
Yep.
And I agree. I agree. And another thing too, stop letting the world teach your kids on what
Yes.
to name private parts.
Yeah. Call
These
it like it is.
foul, names, and don't teach your kids little silly names for private parts. They go to the doctor talking about their cocoa puff hurt and this and that. No, they need to know what the private parts are and what
Yes.
they do. Don't have no
Mhm.
15-year-old thinking a stork still bringing babies to the front porch. Don't do that, okay? No, teach your kids the right things to say and the
Right.
right things to do it. Let's shift gears for a little bit, Arthenius. COVID-19 hit,
Yeah.
and a lot of people had to make adjustments. As of now, over 100,000 people have died. You personally, as a leader, as a worshiper, how has
Mhm.
it affected you and your family? You said your dad's a pastor, so you had to adjust to a new way of life. Just talk about all the different ways it affected you individually.
Man, at first I was upset because of plans that were changed or canceled, and it was nothing that we could do about it, so just had to accept what was going on. But which I did. I did accept what was happening and just had to adjust. My father always used to use the expression learn how to be flexible. He's been saying that for years. And over the years, I have developed that mentality, learning to be flexible, meaning just learning how to adjust and still find the positive out of it. With our church services, we have a very, very small congregation. And thankfully, we've still been able to meet. We've adjusted some things, but we've still been able to meet for our Sabbath services for the past 3 months. And thank God, no one has been sick. So I'm so grateful for that. Um, Other things that have changed, like I said, I've had to adjust even with my organization, not being able to have the interaction with the young girls, which I really do miss it. But I'm learning to even adjust with that, making things virtual. Plans being changed, plans being canceled, trips being canceled, camp meeting being changed.
Oh, don't say it. Can't
I'm
be.
telling it.
Listen, let me cut in for a minute. I've worked with this woman the past 3 years, and when I tell you we have a time at camp meeting, we have a time. I mean, she is one of the most brilliant worship leaders in the world. She enhances what we do, and we genuinely like being around each other. The whole team, we had a team of people that we worked with consistently for the past 3 years. And like after service is over, we just sit around and talk,
Yeah.
the entire time. And so when I found out it wasn't happening, I just sent her one sentence, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't want to hear that today." And so, go ahead. I didn't mean to jump in.
It's okay. But like I said, I've been learning to adjust, and sometimes I feel bad for feeling this way, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I have actually enjoyed this downtime, this the time that has kind of slowed down for and just in life in general because I mean, everybody's life has probably been so busy. You had to be this place, be this place, be this place, going from here to there. And so when the pandemic started, everything just kind of stopped and you had time to actually think about your life, what you want to do, the things that you want to accomplish. And so I was like, you know what? I'm actually enjoying this. And I was like, but I feel bad for saying it, but
Yeah.
I'm actually enjoying this time. I don't have to worry about being anywhere, and I don't have to worry about responding to an event that's going on. So I'm like, I'm actually loving this. And sometimes I feel like I'm more an introvert, but I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
But I have really enjoyed just being with myself this whole time and not having to worry about any events, planning anything. But but I do hate that I miss my cruise.
Yeah.
I miss Cocoa Beach.
Mhm.
And I am really missing the beach right now because the
Oh
beach is my
yeah.
favorite place. But with the cases rising, I'm being responsible, and I'm just not gonna do it because I have two elderly parents. I mean, they're not old, but I've got to take that into consideration. I do have two older parents and a new baby nephew, and I just want to make sure that I'm not just looking out for me, but looking out for them. But COVID-19, it really has done something to us, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because we're not it's not we're not going back to the way it was. We're not.
Mm-mm.
And some people think that, but we're not. It's not going to be the same way that it was before.
You live in South Carolina,
Yes.
and it's a crazy, crazy politically divided state.
Yeah.
Also, you work in hospitality, and you see how different racial groups address COVID-19,
Yes.
particularly with wearing masks. Talk to
Yeah.
me about what you've seen on the racial divide and the political divide when it comes to wearing masks.
You have some who are fussing about they shouldn't make us wear a mask, and then you have some saying we need to wear a mask because you're being selfish if you don't want to wear a mask. And gosh, being in South Carolina, like you said, we are a
South
divided
Carolina,
state.
South Carolina.
It is. I mean, it's a red state, so it's always going to be a red state. But you have, like I said, you do see it where people they're arguing about whether we should be made to wear a mask or not. For my job, they made it mandatory this week, which I'm okay with it. Which I
Makes
had
sense.
pulled my mask out before, because we have people coming from all kind of places. Before the pandemic even started, or when it first started, we had people from New York still coming down there. And I'm like, why are we letting these people in our state? And then as soon as they opened it up, the cases started rising again. And it's horrible. We had 1,200, 1,200 cases yesterday.
Wow.
And it keeps increasing each day. And you still have some people who just don't want to wear a mask. I had a lady to tell me last night, she came in, she started laughing. She said, "Oh, so I'm sorry they're making y'all wear a mask." And I'm saying, "You need to have one on too."
Yes.
And
Keep me alive.
she was an older lady. And it's like, but that's how people are. I mean, you can't change anyone. So all you can do is do your part and survive.
I saw that you were a part of a peaceful protest
I was.
recently. Tell us about those experiences.
It was my first experience, my first protest, and it was emotional. It was beautiful. Just seeing so many people come together, blacks, whites, Arabians. I even saw one of their signs out there. They were out there marching with us, and it was peaceful. Only thing that bothered me was that the people in our town, especially the ones downtown, they started boarding up their stores.
Wow.
And it made me feel some type of way because it made me think that y'all really think that we are like that.
Yeah.
Not all black people cause riots. We were not there to smash anyone's windows. And I'm so glad that it was so peaceful because it proved them wrong, proved them all wrong. Like we had one store who took all the merchandise out
Wow.
and
Wow.
closed down. Another one across the street, she boarded up the entire store. One man had like iron gates over his store. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I was like, do y'all really feel that way about us?
Yeah.
But I'm so glad it was peaceful. everyone was together. We were chanting together. We were praying together, kneeling together. But it was so beautiful just to see so many people come together. And it was just at one moment, just a wave of emotions just kind of overtook me, and it just brought tears to my eyes. And, tears that we were together on one accord with this, and then tears that we had to do this. And it was it was an amazing experience, and I enjoyed it.
What prompted you to go out? What were your feelings around George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor
Yeah.
and now even Rayshard Brooks? What
Right.
prompted you to make a move like that? And why should young people get involved with things like that?
For me, I don't know what it was like I can't really pinpoint what made this death so different, because I've gotten to the point where I can't even watch the videos anymore. Anytime they surface, like if I know what happened, I was like, my emotions won't allow me to watch any more videos. But for some reason, I guess I'm older, and I realized once I do get married and have kids, I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, I'm afraid to have kids. Like I started having these thoughts. I'm like, I'm afraid to have kids because I have to worry about something like this. Then I began thinking about my two brothers. I have two older brothers, two older Black brothers who have sons. And
Wow.
all of this was just going in my head. I'm like, this cannot be happening. I was like, I do not remember hearing or seeing all this when I was a child, and maybe it was because I was blinded, or, a child, you're just innocent. You don't really think about these things. But as I got older and just realizing what happened with this death, all of these thoughts began coming into my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Mm,
I have to have kids one day and I have to worry about this. And like I said, thinking about my two older brothers with their sons, and they have to have this conversation with them, explaining to them why Blacks are protesting. And so I was like, I've got to be a part of this. I've got to be a part of this moment. This is something that I wanted to experience so that I am able to, explain to my children what happened, and hoping that it does bring forth changes. Now, I'm not saying that I'm the strong advocate for Black Lives Matter, because that's not my calling, but I am a Black woman, and I love our Black people. I love them. Wouldn't change anything for the world. We're
mm,
beautiful. But this was something that I felt like I needed to be a part of. And I told my best friend this. I was actually convicted by this going on. And this conviction is, I need to embrace who I am even more.
mm.
Embrace who I am, the culture, and even patronize my brothers and sisters, their businesses and everything that they're doing. I was like, I need to do that more.
And
Because
don't ask for a discount.
yeah, exactly. It's like I need to do this more and appreciate what my brothers and sisters are doing, because we can never do it enough, and we don't do it enough. We don't, if we're
Mm,
honest. And so that was just my personal conviction. I was like, you know what? I need to do better. And so
mm,
it started off by me even participating in the protest, and I made myself a promise that, like, you know what? I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna patronize my brothers and sisters, like if it's professional now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to be recommending your
Right.
business if you're coming
That's real.
halfway
That's
towards
real.
that. Yeah. But I want to do better when it comes to that, and it started off with me participating in that protest.
All right. We have had a brilliant discussion today. We've started with sexual abuse
Hmm.
and sexual abuse in the church. If you missed it, make sure you watch the replay. We moved on politics, and we're ending up with the protests. We're here with the phenomenal Arthenius Jackson of One Touch Transformation. If you want to get in touch with her, here's how you can do that with One Touch Transformation, talking about sexual abuse and ministering to young ladies. And that's how you can reach her personally. Personally. And we thank all of you who have been watching. We're going to end on this note. Last question, Arthenius, and thank you very much for doing this, my friend. I really appreciate this.
Pleasure.
Um, how, with all of the unrest taking place, what spiritual advice would you give to a young person on how to cope with all of this, how to face all of this evil that we're seeing, the evil coming out of the White House, the evil from the police department, the evil of this disease.
Mhm.
Um, Mentally, some of our young people have been challenged for this. They're they're sad they didn't get to walk across the graduation stage. What would you say to them, encouragement, when it comes to spirituality?
Okay. So I know you've already heard to trust God. So we already know that we have to trust God even in the most chaotic times. But one thing that I want to encourage you is by saying this: no matter what is going on around you and in this world, God still has placed a purpose inside of you to carry out. So just because everything else may have feel like it has, stopped or has gone, crazy and chaotic, God has still called you to fulfill the purpose that he has for your life. So we cannot give up on what God has called us to do. We can't stop doing the work that he has placed inside of us to do. So whatever God has purposed in your life, the work that he has started in your life, you've got to continue to fulfill it despite what's going on. We can't get too distracted by these things that are going on in the world, because we know that things are going to happen. We know that we're going to go through these trials and these tribulations, and Satan is going to continue to do his job. But just because all of that is going on does not mean you stop doing the work that God has called you to do. You have to continue to pray. During these times, we have to continue to pray. We have to continue to trust him and talk to him daily. Whatever it takes for you to stay on course, to fulfill the purpose, just do that. And you'll find peace even during this time. I've been able to find peace, like I said, and be flexible and to adjust to what's going on because of my relationship with God. I know what God has placed inside of me to do. And just because everything else is going on doesn't mean I can't stop working.
Come
So you
on.
can't stop working. We all have to keep working, keep doing the work that God has placed us to do. Yes, we can still support and protest, but at the same time, you still have to do the work that God has called you to do, no matter what. He
Mm.
that began a good work in me is able to complete it. So that means we're not going to stop. You can't stop. Keep doing it. Allow God to complete the work in your life.
Wow. 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 What do you say, everybody, to Arthenius Jackson? Put it in the comments if you want to respond to that. We are grateful to have her here today, and I think she blessed our life and spoken to our lives in powerful, powerful ways. If you are a victim of sexual abuse and you need to reach out to someone, here is the sexual assault, sexual abuse hotline. Make sure you call that. You can also find more resources at rain.org. Rain.org. If you'd like to contact Arthenius's nonprofit, or is it profit? Which one is it?
Yeah,
It's
it's
nonprofit?
nonprofit.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to cheat you out your bag. Uh, let's talk to Arthenius at One Touch Transformation. Or if you'd like to contact her personally, you can reach her on social media at Arthenius J. This has been Rich, young people. I hope that you've been blessed by it. For those who are watching the replay, share it, pass the word along. All of our replays are archived on YouTube and on Facebook at Pastor Donovan. Okay. So you can find that anywhere at any time to be a resource for you. Thank you for joining us today at our Youth and Young Adult Discussion Forum for the South Atlantic Conference Camp Meeting. I'm Dr. Donovan Washington. It's been my joy to serve you today. I hate that we can't be together in Orangeburg, but we are together in spirit right now. And I miss you all, but hopefully you've been blessed all week by this. Don't forget, tonight at 6 o'clock, right here, we'll have our vibrant worship service with Pastor Daryl Palmes from the Decatur Seventh-day Adventist Church. And Jewel Thomas will be joining us again with some special music. And we'll show a clip or two from the West Broad Seventh-day Adventist Church as well. Don't be sad, Arthenius ain't singing tonight, okay? All right, Arthenius got things to do, okay? She got things to do. We'll try to sneak her in maybe tomorrow night, okay? We'll try to sneak her in. But don't be calling me saying, where's Arthenius? We want our Arthenius. She got things to do, and we got other people to sing. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for another day. We thank you for this presentation. Bless the youth and young adults who have been watching. and keep them in the Lord. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Athenius. Thank you, everyone. And never forget, if God be for us, who can be against us? God bless you all.